outsiders are attacking your mill. Your city is facing starvation. Now Japan just invaded your country. What you gonna do? You've just been practicing martial arts all day and everyone wants to fight you. Let's see if Ip Man can save his mill factory and survive the invasion in this condensed version of Ip Man. The film begins in a residence of Foshan enjoying prosperity and pursuing kung fu as a leisure activity. The rise of martial arts clubs in the area lead to Foshan gaining recognition as the province celebrated for its martial arts prowess. Master Lu, a fresh martial arts instructor who just established his own school in Foshan, visits Ip Man's residence to engage in a friendly sparring session upon hearing of Ip Man's supposed skill in kung fu. As a private encounter, the outcome will remain hidden and no one will know. The duel commences with Master Lu demonstrating his Lu fist style, but Ip Man effortlessly deflects his attack, sends him tumbling. Despite Lu's insistence on restarting the match, he endures increasing discomfort. Upon continuation, Ip Man dominates the encounter, landing successive strikes on Lu. Ip Man seizes the opportunity to bring Master Lu to the ground, feigning punches as Lu lays there thinking, what just happened? As the bout concludes, Ip Man graciously helps Lu to his feet and escorts him out. Offering reassurance, Ip Man confirms Lu that he won't reveal the results of their encounter to anyone. Master Lu departs, visibly discouraged, his confidence shattered as it becomes apparent that his Lu fist style has proven ineffective. The following day, Ip Man rendezvous with his friend Quan at a local restaurant. As they dine, their waiter Lin serves them the inquiry that, is it accurate that Ip Man swiftly overcame Master Lu in combat? Lin reveals that his brother witnessed this duel while retrieving his kite from a tree, inadvertently observing their confrontation. Quan gestures for the waiter to give him some privacy, indicating they need to discuss some personal matters. He then confides in Ip Man about his plan to establish a cotton mill aimed at providing clothing for the community, inviting Ip Man to join him as a partner. Though initially uncertain about the business proposition, Ip Man decides to support Quan by lending him the necessary funds to kickstart the venture, with the understanding that Quan will repay him when he can. Later, a group of outsiders arrive in Foshan, eager to challenge the martial arts masters of the local club. Jin, the leader of the outsiders, initiates the first duel by employing his northern-style boxing technique, effortlessly defeating the initial master. Moving on to the next challenger, who specializes in weapon combat. Jin prevails again, this time with his own swordsmanship. The third encounter proves to be a tougher match against Master Lu, lasting longer than the previous bouts but ultimately resulting in Jin's victory. Taking a break to refuel, Jin discusses his ambition to establish his own martial arts school in Foshan, aiming to claim the top spot. However, a passing waiter interrupts, cautioning them that until they defeat Ip Man, they cannot assert superiority as he is regarded as the best martial artist here. Driven by fury, Jin sets out to locate Ip Man and vanquish him. Arriving at Ip Man's residence, Jin introduces himself and announces their intention to open a martial arts school. Ip Man casually responds, suggesting that all they need to do is find a nice location and they don't need to fight him to open a martial arts school, and he requests them to leave. Unwilling to accept rejection, Jin taunts Ip Man by disparaging the quality of martial arts here in Foshan, pressing him into confrontation. Realizing Jin won't depart without a fight, Ip Man reluctantly agrees to the challenge. Jin initiates the exchange with a barrage of punches, which Ip Man skillfully evades before launching a counterattack with a flurry of kicks of his own, sending Jin sprawling through the air. Returning for another round, Jin faces an onslaught of Wing Chun strike that sent him tumbling to the ground. Frustrated by his own inability to gain the upper hand, he attempts to retrieve his sword, but Ip Man swiftly neutralizes his advances. Despite Jin's relentless slicing and dicing, Ip Man skillfully counters, disarming him with a surprising weapon, a feather duster. Overwhelmed and humiliated by his defeat, Jin departs, grappling with displeasure in his own skills. Several years later, Japan launches an invasion in China, plunging the nation into chaos and depriving people of their means of living, resulting in widespread starvation. Under Japanese control, factories and infrastructure are decimated, leaving only a handful of factories operational. Ip Man's residence is seized and repurposed as the headquarters for the Japanese army, rendering his family homeless. Forced forced to wander from one place to another in search for shelter. With no alternative and his family in dire need of money for provisions, Ip Man reluctantly takes a job shoveling coal. While at work, he reunites with Lin and observes numerous other martial arts masters laboring alongside him. During their lunch break, Japanese soldiers approach, seeking Chinese martial artists to engage in matches with their Japanese counterparts. The prize for victory, the officer announces, is a bag of rice. While Lin and several others eagerly volunteer, Ip Man advises Lin against participating, concerned about the potential repercussions should they emerge victorious. Upon reaching a Japanese dojo, Lin and two companions confront General Mura himself. Excluding confidence, Mura boldly challenged all three simultaneously, promising them a bag of rice regardless of the outcome. Swiftly overpowering their opponents, the trio concedes defeat, prompting the officer to halt the match. Enraged, Lin recklessly charges at Mura, only to be met with a powerful counterattack that leaves him incapacitated, unable to move. It becomes evident that Lin's desperation for the bag of rice knows no bounds. The following day at the coal yard, Ip Man inquires about Lin's absence from work, but no one has seen him ever since yesterday. As Japanese soldiers return, seeking additional volunteers for another round of matches, Ip Man this time steps forward, volunteering himself while wondering about the fate of his friend. Entering the dojo, Ip Man witnesses the execution of Master Lu, who lost his match. Fueled by rage, Ip Man steps forward, volunteering for the next bout. He boldly declares his intentions to fight 10 opponents at once. The general, taken aback, agrees, and the 10 fighters enter the arena. Ip Man swiftly dispatches the first opponent, showing him no respect by stepping on his head. He traps another in an arm lock, delivering relentless punches to his face. Using his Wing Chun technique, he overwhelms yet another opponent, sending him crashing to the ground. With only one fighter left standing, Ip Man unleashes his fury, pummeling him relentlessly until his anger subsides. As the other fighters close in, the general intervenes, demanding to know Ip Man's identity and urging him to return next time. Ip Man simply identifies himself as a Chinese man before departing with the bloodied bag of rice. Returning to the mill factory, Ip Man hurries to aid of his friend Quan, who has been assaulted by Jin and his cronies. Unfortunately, he arrives too late to prevent the attack. Quan, in his battered state, implores Ip Man to teach them martial arts so they can defend themselves in these troubled times. Feeling powerless to protect those he cares about, Ip Man reluctantly agrees, recognizing the necessity of self-defense training for everyone. The general, puzzled by Ip Man's absence, dispatches his men to bring him back to the dojo by force. Meanwhile, Ip Man, engrossed in a game of hide and seek with his son and his friend, is unexpectedly confronted by Japanese soldiers intending on capturing him. In a swift and decisive action, Ip Man defeats the 3 soldiers and realizes that staying in the area is no longer safe for his family. Determined to find a new home, they depart, leaving behind the perilous surroundings. The following day, chaos erupts at the mill factory as Jin and his gang return, demanding money. However, the factory workers, now trained in martial arts, they refuse to back down and decide to fight back. Just as the odds seem dire, Ip Man unexpectedly arrives to lend his support. Amidst the brawl, Ip Man knocks down several of Jin's henchmen before demanding an end to the violence. Jin, frustrated by the situation and the hunger of his men, refused to relent and sends his henchmen once more, this time armed with axes. Despite the increased danger, Ip Man easily dispatches the attackers. When Jin charges in, wielding a rake, Ip Man counters with a giant bamboo stick, shattering the rake in half. With persistence and determination, Ip Man delivers a decisive blow until Jin finally surrenders, calling off his men. Later, Jin betrays Ip Man's whereabouts to the Japanese soldiers. They gather everyone at the mill and resort to violence, beating up Quan to extract information. In a selfless act to protect his friends, Ip Man surrenders himself to prevent further harm. As the colonel officer prepares to shoot Ip Man, the general intervenes, recognizing the potential value of Ip Man's skills. He offers Ip Man a chance to spare his life by teaching Chinese Kung Fu to the Japanese army. However, Ip Man refuses, instead proposing a duel with the general himself. Ignoring the challenge, the general orders his men to take Ip Man away. General Mura orchestrates a public duel, aiming to showcase superiority of Japanese martial arts over Chinese Kung Fu. He hopes that a fair tournament between Ip Man and himself will foster peace between the two nations. As Ip Man is brought in by the soldiers, the colonel officer from the previous night warns him to lose or face dire consequences. With tension thick in the air, the two opponents stand face to face, exchanging respectful bows. before the battle commences. Miura initiates the fight, but Ip Man swiftly counters, landing the first blow to the head. He glances at the colonel officer to ensure he won't face repercussions for striking the general. The battle intensifies, with the general delivering rapid kicks and punches. Despite being caught and thrown across the stage, Ip Man rebounds, striking back with Wing Chun fists and flipping over the general. Seizing control of the fight, Ip Man unleashes a barrage of Wing Chun strikes, relentlessly pummeling the general as he were a wooden training target. Finally, the general succumbs to Ip Man's fatal blows. The film ends with Ip Man standing before the crowd, basking in his moment of triumph as they cheer his name enthusiastically. Suddenly, bang, a gunshot rings out, and Ip Man is struck in his shoulder by the colonel officer. He collapses to the ground, inciting the crowd to erupt into a riot fueled by anger and outrage.